I'm Carmine Gallo with Rajamannar. He is the Chief Marketing Officer of a brand that I bet you've got in your wallet, Mastercard. In fact, he's one of the most influential CMOs in the world. His new book, Quantum Marketing. Hello, Raja. Nice to see you.
Hi, Carmine.
This is just terrific. And it reminds me that marketing, I guess by definition, is selling and promoting goods and services. But it's so much more than that, isn't it?
Absolutely. Marketing has been historically defined as the art and science of understanding the needs of consumers or customers and fulfilling them better than your competitors.
Yeah. Why do you say that marketing is in a crisis? Well, first of all, how would you let me back up, Raja. How would you describe marketing in this new digital economy? And why is it in a crisis then?
So marketing, the definition has not changed.
Okay.
The principles remain the same. The definition remains the same. The concepts remain the same. What changes are the tactics? What changes are the channels? So these are the changes which are happening in the environment, and marketing has to adapt accordingly. So this is number one. It is absolutely in a crisis at this point in time. I would say existential crisis. Two main reasons. Number one, as marketing started responding to technological changes, marketers have been classically trained more on the qualitative side of marketing as opposed to the quantitative side of the marketing. So marketing, when it is being really fed and fueled by technology and data, marketers have started feeling a little out of depth. And then you have got folks from technology side, from data analytics side, coming and hijacking literally the agenda of marketing, number one. Number two, as competition started intensifying, the CEOs of companies or the CFOs of companies are holding marketers accountable for results. And they ask, I'm giving you so many $1 million. What is it doing to our business? Unfortunately, again, because most marketers are qualitative and they're not very comfortable with data or with finance or the technical aspects of how the business returns are calculated, they are caught like deer in headlights, unfortunately. Yes. Now, when they start giving marketing answers like my brand positioning is improving, my brand image is improving, the CFO or the CEO have sort of not got the answer they're looking for. They're looking for results in terms of business outcomes. You're talking in terms of marketing actions. And if you're not able to connect the dots, and that's exactly what is happening, they're losing their seat at the table. Many companies have done away with the roles of CMOs and replaced with chief revenue officers, chief customer officers, and so on the one hand. And on the other hand, you also have a situation where they're fragmenting marketing and distributing those functions to other areas outside of marketing. The last point I would say, there is a McKinsey study, which is fairly recent. What they have found out in that survey is that more than 70% of the CEOs have said that they do not have confidence in their marketing teams. So the collection of all this is why I say there is an existential crisis for marketing.
Yeah, fascinating. We're going to get into some of the qualities and traits that CMOs should bring to the table. I want to talk about that in terms of career skills. But first, I'd like to ask you about one of the most innovative developments in marketing, and that you have a whole chapter dedicated to it in your book, and it's called multisensory marketing. 5 senses, right? We have 5 senses that constantly supply information to the brain. We see, touch, taste, hear, and smell. Mm-hmm. Can you walk me through, let's use MasterCard as an example. So what do you mean by multisensory marketing? It's a credit card. I can't taste it, can't smell it. What do you mean by multisensory marketing?
So the whole idea is that as a brand, you want to get into the minds and hearts of your consumers, customers, and prospects through all their 5 senses. Normally, what do? You put advertisements, which are audio and visual, or you print material, or you're digital. It's all audio and visual in some senses. But what we said is, look, there are better and more intelligent and smart ways of getting into people's hearts and minds, because the number of commercial messages which are going to every single consumer on an average is about 5,000, between 3,000 and 5,000 messages. Consumers cannot process those many number of messages. So if you have to cut through the clutter, you need to deploy alternate methodologies of how you're reaching the consumer through that clutter and making an impact and telling your story in the most compelling fashion. So what we did,
I'm fascinated by this, Raja, because I wrote a book on Steve Jobs and how he was a great presenter. It was the first book on how to present like Steve Jobs. And he brought in multisensory elements to all of his public presentations. So the fact that you're applying this to marketing, I think, is something unique. And I don't believe a lot of people appreciate that you can touch the five senses, even in something that may not be obvious.
so I'll give you a simple example, a tangible example, where at Mastercard, we said, how can we get into the sense of taste? To your point, you're not going to eat your credit card. But the key thing is, you can use your credit card for having extraordinary eating experiences or culinary experiences that money cannot buy, but which you can get only with a MasterCard. So we started actually putting up what we call as priceless tables at various exotic places that you normally don't expect a table to be there to have your dinner or lunch or breakfast. As an example, our first priceless table was on a billboard right next to NASDAQ in Times Square. So you're sitting on a platform on top of a billboard, being served a 5-course Michelin-starred chef is serving fantastic food. You're having an amazing experience.
I remember that camp. Yes, I remember that campaign. That's
right.
awesome.
That was the first table we had. And since then, we started going to exotic places around the world, like, inside of a museum next to a dinosaur skeleton, or on the stage of Carnegie Hall, and or in the middle of a baseball field. And people started saying, wow, this is cool. And then they would go, and it's a memorable experience that we give them. We pull out all the stops. Then we went to the next stage and we said, why don't we have our own restaurants? So before the pandemic, we already launched 5 exotic restaurants in the world. Each one is a replica of a very exotic place. Like, for example, one is called The Rock off the coast of Zanzibar. And it's literally on a rock, and it's a hut on top of a rock. Beautiful setting and wonderful, delicious meal. We replicated the entire setting indoors in Manhattan, and we call it The Rock. And then we create, so every view, the smell, everything is replicated in The Rock, just as though you are there in Zanzibar.
Marketing is so creative. Marketing can be so creative. I love that example.
Yeah, and then the result of it is, I'll just give you one quote, like one of the very reputed magazines has published, saying that if you don't have a MasterCard now, the time is now to go and get one, because these experiences are too good to miss. That's exactly the kind of what you call demand we want to have.
And cutting through the clutter, like you said.
Exactly. Exactly.
Let's talk about sound, though. Sound was another one that I had never thought of regarding a credit card. Tell me more about this audio strategy that took you like 2 years to research.
Yeah. So the genesis of this is a whole range of new devices are coming at us, like smart speakers, which are all operating through the medium of sound only. Same thing is true with Internet of Things, many of them. So what happens is your interaction as a consumer with these devices is through the medium of voice or sound. Suppose I'm standing in front of an Alexa device from Amazon and say, hey, Alexa, I want to buy diapers. And Alexa will say, do you want to buy Pampers? And I say, yes. And then the sale has already completed. So from discovery all the way to purchase, the entire transaction happens through the medium of sound. Though I have a beautiful logo, which has got a universal recognition of the red and yellow circles, there is no place for
Mastercard circles, right? Very simple.
Correct.
Yeah, everyone recognizes those.
But where would I put that? There is no real estate with an Alexa interaction. So we said we have to represent our logo, or our brand should be present in an audio form for a device that is purely audio. Very simple kind of a thing. And I thought that, yeah, we can look around and see so many other brands which might have these solutions already. Shockingly, while there have been jingles around for a long time, there have been mnemonics by companies like Intel or songs of some sort, melodies or not so songs, by companies like Aria, and then you have got McDonald's. No one seemed to have had a comprehensive end-to-end architecture that is geared up for every possible interaction with your consumer. So we went and created a playbook, our own playbook, with 10 layers of sound architecture, or what we call a sonic brand architecture. So far, we have deployed 3. And every time you interact with Mastercard, either through our advertisements or at our events that we sponsor, or through each time that you're using your Mastercard, either at your home, on your phone, or at a shop at the point of sale, you will hear a sound of Mastercard. So the whole idea is that, and it just takes 1.3 seconds. That sound when you hear, when the transaction is complete, will give you a gratification, a sense of certainty that my transaction has gone through successfully. 1.3 seconds, but a profound impact to the consumer's experience and the quality of this experience. Now, already around the world, we have been able to scale this to 58 million points of interaction that Mastercard's sonic sound plays. And then we have got, of course, our melodies, which we use, our ringtones as music on hold, background score for our advertisements, and so on. And we also have a music album that is going to be launched soon with the melodies of Mastercard incorporated in a very subtle yet recognizable way. And there are 11 different songs working with some of the best artists and producers of music in the world.
Raja, I got it. 1.3 second sound. I never would have considered as something that's meaningful to a brand identity and to my connection with the brand. That's fascinating.
That's a beauty. In fact, that was a discovery for us too. You know, how the mind responds to sound. We had to first learn that. Different sounds evoke different feelings and different kinds of inspirations. It's fascinating. And when we had eventually gone through the whole exercise, we learned so much about consumer neurology, the science of sound, and we had to get into music. And I'm sort of a little trained in Indian classical music, but I'm just so superficial. And we had to really work with some of the best artists, producers, musicians, musicologists. Oh, it was an amazing journey of 2 years, and I'm glad we have
2 years of this. Okay, so let me play the CEO. Raja, you have spent 2 years on this initiative, on this project, to come up with this 1.3 second sound. Is it worth it?
Absolutely.
How do you measure that? How do you measure this kind of success? I'm curious.
So we have 3 different types of measures. One is the brand measure. The second one is the business measure. The third one is the competitive advantage measure. When you look at the brand, is my brand becoming stronger than anybody else out there? I'm not just competing against the other payment networks. I'm competing for the space in people's minds and hearts across all the brands, right? How am I doing that? We have clear evidence and data to show that our brand is advancing leaps and bounds. For example, Interbrand last year has rated us as one of the fastest growing brands. In brand Z, which is done by Millward Brown, we have been rated as a top 10 brand in the world. And our Sonic brand has been rated as the world's #1 brand. So this is on the brand side. Then go to the business side. Is it making any difference in terms of the number of transactions that happen on Mastercard, etc.? The answer is yes. When consumers hear that sound and they get a sense of gratification or a fulfillment, that starts building an association for them. That next time when I want to go to a shop and shop, I would much rather take that because it is a little bit of fun element in it. Plus, more importantly, there is a reassurance that my transaction has gone through in a safe, secure manner. And we're actually having quantitative evidence of that. The third thing is competitive advantage. So we compare with other payment brands in this case and say, which brand do you prefer and why? And actually consumers are responding, saying that this brand is cool. It is actually very future-looking, forward-looking, and so on. And they prefer this brand more. So when my CEO confronts me with this question, I have got a robust answer that is quantitative and qualitative and highly logical.
I'm sure you do. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, especially after reading the book, is because I know that Mastercard is a very highly admired brand, and in the surveys has a very high brand recognition. Real briefly, I want to talk about another uh, another sense that you can touch through marketing, and that's the sense of smell. And in your book, you go through one of my favorite examples, which is the signature scents at the hotels. Uh,
Yes.
Again, that was a fascinating experience for me, and I knew we were going to mention it, so I had to bring these. I have these in my office. These are scent sticks from the Aria Hotel.
There you go.
I love these so much. I'm reminded of the spa in, which I hope to get to back. I hope to get back to someday. But I like the Westin scents too. That whole area to me was it's really fascinating, this research into scents and marketing. And obviously it's something you go into in the book as well.
Absolutely. In fact, companies which have tried scents rather, as one of the devices to associate a good experience with their brand, they have grown disproportionately. The consumer feedback has been positive. You're a living example of that, right? You cared to import that sense from wherever it is from Aria and put it in your office, right? And that's something which shows you. Interestingly, also the sense of sound, if you look at how the brain processes various information from different sources,
yeah,
the one with scents particularly stay right next to long-term memory. So what happens is they evoke emotions and they evoke memories extremely strongly. So if your brand has a scent, it remains in people's minds forever. That's the power.
Yeah, it is powerful. Let's be clear on something. It just occurred to me as we were talking about this. Not every brand can easily touch all the five senses, or are you suggesting be creative? Like when Mastercard was, when you talked about the taste and the personal restaurant experiences. Are you saying that it's possible to touch those five senses if you're creative?
Absolutely. That's the whole idea. That's the whole idea behind multisensory marketing. Like, what justification does Mastercard have to be in the visual medium? Come to think of it, we're not a TV brand. We are not an electric bulb brand, but we are there in the visual medium. Why are we in the audio medium? We are not a gramophone. We are not a record company. We are not a radio company, but we are there in that medium. A medium is a way through which you reach consumers. And as you rightly said at the beginning, consumers process or receive information and process it differently through all their five senses. So why do you want to restrict only to one or two? It's not about, if, for example, I want to leverage the sense of eating or sense of taste, I don't have to be a brand that produces food to be in that space. I'm only using that whole aspect of taste as a mechanism to get into consumers' hearts and minds.
Yeah. What is see, now you've stumped me because now my brain's working overtime here. You have a logo, you have the Mastercard logo. How else are you getting into the sense of sight?
Oh, multiple ways. So for example, if you go to any, what do you call, some of the advertisements that we began creating, these ads may not even have a logo of Mastercard, but by looking at them, at the design system, you can make out it is from Mastercard. Logo is one identifier, but the whole design system is different. That's one part of it. Two, think about the scenario where you're getting into virtual reality. In virtual reality, if you are watching a football game, okay, are you going to take your regular visual elements and go into this virtual reality space? That is a two-dimensional world. This is a three-dimensional world. How do you translate from there to here? And what new elements can you build into your visual recognition and presence that would make a difference? That's a whole journey in itself. And it's a fascinating journey.
You have touched on smart speakers. You've touched on artificial intelligence. We've touched on virtual mediums as well. this is what you mean by, unless I'm mistaken, but I think this is what you mean by quantum marketing, which is leveraging all these technologies, 5G, artificial intelligence, blockchains you mentioned, to transform the way brands engage with consumers. Is that
Yeah.
an accurate summary of what quantum marketing means to you?
I would say yes, but I would like to just clarify a little bit, right? So firstly, marketing is being practiced the way it is, but it will not work tomorrow because the entire environment in which consumers are operating in and living in is being to be so disrupted. Even in the past, when a couple of technologies come around, like internet, when it came along with data analytics, marketing had to do a little bit of reinvention. When social media and mobile phones came about, again, it had to go reinvention. Each time there were a couple of technologies, marketing had to undergo through a reinvention. Now we are at the verge of a slew of more than 24 technologies that are coming at us, all those that you have mentioned. Now, what happens is these new technologies will make the existing concepts and strategies of marketing obsolete and useless. So you need to reinvent and reimagine marketing. And that's what quantum marketing is. So I'll just give you one small analogy to drive the point home. If you look at the world of physics, physics is a science by which you try to understand how things work around you in the physical world, like gravity or electricity or magnetism, etc. But classical physics, which was in existence for God knows how many centuries, was miserably failing in the scenarios where mankind started getting into outer space or getting inside of atoms, or when speeds were going very, very fast. Classical physics simply broke down. So then came a field called quantum physics, which is today the basis for practically all modern modern physics. And so quantum physics is the new branch in exactly the same way. When classical marketing is just failing already, and it'll be a disaster tomorrow, we need a new field called quantum marketing. So what quantum physics is to physics, quantum marketing is to marketing.
I love analogies. As someone who writes about communication skills, and that analogy was brilliant. And now I know why you are one of the top CMOs in the world. See, Raja, that it all comes together. I want to talk about career skills. You have a chapter at the end of your book, which means people have to read it to get to the end chapter. But it's a wonderful section on 21 traits that you think a new quantum marketer or this new breed of marketing professional should have. But I'm going to argue that these 21 professional qualities are also qualities that any aspiring leader or business professional should exhibit. And some of these are just really fascinating. Quantum CEOs are like Leonardo da Vinci. Okay, I've got Isaacson's Leonardo da Vinci book
There
here.
you go.
What do you mean by a good CEO, CMO is going to be like Leonardo da Vinci? What do you mean? What does that have to do with marketing?
So when you look at marketing as a field, classically, it used to be about creativity, about intuition, about innovation, and about judgment. So this was all the using of your right brain thinking. However, with the advancement of science and technology and data, the skills required for marketers today are all from the left side of the brain, which is the analysis, the quantitative aspects, the logical, rational thinking, and so on. To succeed as a marketer today, you need both sides of your brain. And Leonardo da Vinci is one of those rare people who not only was a phenomenal artist of world-class type, he was also a brilliant scientist. That's a rare accomplishment. So you got the left side and the right side brain. He has used probably like nobody else could have. That's what today's marketers are required to do. They need to understand.
The reason why I'm arguing that, or I'm making the argument that right brain, left brain, creativity and science, art and science is something that all business professionals should strive for, is because you're talking about traditional marketing, right brain, and now you're bringing in all the science and the analytical. Well, a few weeks ago, I talked to Jeff Lawson, who is the founder of Twilio, and he's arguing that software developers have always been engineering mindset, analytical. But if you want to be a successful developer today, you have to bring in the soft skills. So to him, it's kind of the reverse combination. But it reminds me that a business professional today who exceeds in any enterprise is going to have that range of both science and art.
I think it's absolutely a fair point you make, right? But one extra thing I will add is, in the past, if you're a good marketer, understanding marketing is adequate. But tomorrow, to be a good marketer, you have to be a multi-function specialist. In other words, you have to be a generalist. You need to understand finance. You need to understand technology. You need to understand data. You need to understand public relations. And of course, you need to understand marketing deeply. So you're a generalist with a deep specialization in marketing, as opposed to being a marketing specialist who grows up linearly. That's why I call them Leonardo da Vinci type of people that we require for marketing tomorrow.
You have a number of other qualities that good marketers should have. I just want to touch on a couple of them because, again, I think that extends to a lot of other fields as well. They are primarily business leaders. What do you mean by that? Is it that they see themselves, they have to be outside of just that category of the marketing department? What do you mean by business leaders?
So if you're in a marketing department, you have to understand that you are in a commercial environment. And it's not just creativity for creativity's sake, but it is creativity to win in the business. So your mindset has to be that of a business leader first and foremost. And then you are a marketing specialist or a marketing expert after that. So that was the whole context. So you have to be a business leader.
Here's another terrific quality that, again, I think is fascinating. A good marketer today, a quantum marketer in your term, should be incredibly knowledgeable about traditional and classical aspects of marketing, understanding the basics of human psychology, sociology, and anthropology. I'm not sure if the average person in studying marketing understands that they have to have that full range of topics.
So in fact, you find it is getting more and more scarce these days, right? For example, when I went to college, we had to study psychology. We could actually take some courses in anthropology and sociology to get into the depth of that, right? Now today, more and more marketing courses are focused on performance marketing. They talk of A/B testing and how do you do really optimization and ROI metrics, which is good and necessary, but not to the exclusion of understanding the human being to whom you are marketing, right? And you need to understand what is the mind construct, why do they behave, why they behave, and in a particular way, what is behind them, and how do you reach them, how do you convince them, what is the purchase process, the positioning, so on and so forth. And without those fundamentals, I think you'll be sort of very superficial as a marketer. And the true difference you can bring, long-standing difference for your company and for your brand, is when you understand the fundamentals and the foundations solidly and deploy the rest of the other skills that go with it.
One other habit, or one other, not habit, but trend, I think, in marketing and in any professional development or any title scenario, is that great leaders have to be inspiring. They have to have a big vision,
Sure.
which is one of the trends that you're seeing in terms of great marketing specialists. We're not talking about average marketers here. We're talking about quantum marketers. You say quantum marketers have to be inspiring leaders with a big vision. Tell me about the importance of that. What do we mean by the word inspiring and vision?
So first and foremost, a marketing leader, a quantum marketing leader, should be able to think very big. And that vision is not just a fantasy, but it's a vision that is grounded in a real aspiration. And then comes everything else. Now, if marketing teams have to be led, remember, these people are very creative. They're very capable. They need to be inspired. You're not just giving them some tasks and say, hey, go do this task. That's not how they will come up with the best and the greatest of their, we need to create magic. And to create magic, you cannot be very trivial, or you have to be very tactical. You need to have that big picture on the one hand in your mind saying, hey, this is a lofty aspiration we all have, and how amazing it will be when we actually accomplish that particular objective or mission on the one hand. Second, if it looks so fluffy and so fantasy kind of a thing or unrealistic, people will give up even before they start. So how do you inspire them to believe in that vision that requires articulation in a way that they can understand, that they can feel? So you're doing multisensory marketing to them as well, to your own team. You need to inspire them. They need to embrace it. They need to emotionally buy into it. That's when it really becomes an invincible team that goes on solidly towards that particular mission. Let's give you one personal example.
Yeah.
When I inherited Mastercard brand, it was a top 100 brand. We were at number 87 in the top 100 brands, 87th rank. I said, look, we need to be a top 10 brand in the next few years. A lot of people rolled their eyes. They said, come on, we are not such a massive brand. Yes, we have got global presence, but look at the number of brands. We have to overtake this brand, this brand, this brand, this brand, who have 10 times my budget to overtake them and to be in the top 10. But then we laid out why we believe that that's a fantastic aspiration, a realistic aspiration too. It's very difficult, but it is not impossible. And then we went through the whole thing. Fast forward 2020, we were a top 10 brand. If we didn't shoot for that, we would not have gone there.
And I think it's important to be clear. It's not just a top 10 brand in credit cards or payments.
Across all categories.
Across all categories. I hadn't realized that, from 87 to top 10. Again, what an incredible achievement. Finally, Raja, what role, we've touched on this in so many ways, what role do you think communication skills, writing, public speaking, presentation skills, what role do they play in anyone's success in a large enterprise today? Not just in the marketing department, but you've touched every department in a global company. What role do communication skills play in a person's success today? If you were speaking to some graduate students today, what would you say?
I would say on a scale of 0 to 10, probably 10. It's that critical, right? Even if you have and particularly for a field like marketing, or in fact, any field where you are dealing with people, you need to inspire them. You need to communicate to them what your aspiration for the company is or for the brand is. And you need to carry them with you, motivate them, and explain if things are not going well, why it is so, in a way that they are not demoralized, but they are charged up. So when you look at all this, communication plays such a vital, vital role. In fact, I feel very grateful. When I did my MBA, one of the programs that we had to take, one of the courses we had to take was called written and oral communication. A lot of people used to feel, we are already in post-graduation level. Why the hell do we need written and oral communication? We are good, therefore we are here. But no, we are not good enough. We have been there, that's good, but it's not good enough. And it is not about accent reduction. Like I speak with a heavy Indian accent. So, but that's, if I had a British accent, because, will it enhance my quality of communication? Yes. But that's not the cosmetic aspect of communication I'm talking about. I'm talking about authentic communication, clarity of communication, and the forcefulness of the communication, the compelling and convincing nature of communication. These are the things which are extremely critical. And I think it's one of the most important tools in any individual's, I would say, toolkit to be able to succeed. Absolutely essential.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Raja. Quantum Marketing, terrific book. And honestly, not just for people who are in the marketing field, business leaders who need to understand the role of marketing in their brand success and need to read Quantum Marketing as well. Thank you so much for taking your time. I know you must be incredibly busy running the marketing behind Mastercard. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me here. Absolute pleasure talking to you, and hope to do it again sometime soon. Thank you so much.